In the end, this kind of silence is a profound expression of self-control and trust in yourself, trust in the process, and trust that life has a way of balancing itself. It's the quiet confidence that you don't always have to be loud to be strong, and that sometimes the most powerful voice is the one that chooses to remain quiet. It acknowledges that sometimes the best way to influence a situation is not through words, but through patience, presence, and calm. By not engaging in the conflict, you also avoid becoming entangled in someone else's drama or ego struggles. This form of silence is not about ignoring injustice or avoiding important conversations indefinitely. Rather, it is about choosing the right moment, the right tone, and the right way to communicate when it will be most effective and constructive. It's about protecting your peace and energy for battles that truly matter, while letting go of those that are only noise and chaos. When you practice this kind of silence, you invite karma to work in its own time. You create space for truth and fairness to unfold naturally, without your involvement adding more heat to the fire. Choosing to stay silent in such situations is an act of wisdom and restraint. It means recognizing the emotional temperature of the moment and deciding to pause rather than react impulsively. It means valuing long-term harmony over short-term victory, understanding that peace is often found in the quiet spaces between words rather than in heated exchanges. Silence here is a shield, protecting your heart and mind from unnecessary turmoil, while also preventing the situation from spiraling out of control. This choice requires great emotional maturity because it goes against our instinct to defend ourselves or to clarify misunderstandings immediately. It asks us to trust that some things will settle naturally with time, that emotions will cool, and that clarity will emerge once tempers have calmed. There are times when you know that you could speak up, when you have every right to voice your opinion, defend yourself, or express your feelings, but deep down, you realize that saying anything at all will only add fuel to an already raging fire. In these moments, silence becomes not a sign of weakness or passivity, but a conscious choice to prevent further harm. It's the understanding that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every conflict needs your voice to escalate. Sometimes speaking out may satisfy a momentary urge to be heard or to win an argument, but it rarely leads to true resolution or peace. Instead, it can provoke defensiveness, deepen divides, and create cycles of retaliation that leave everyone exhausted and resentful. Silence gives you the space to focus on your own path without the constant weight of disappointment. It's in that quiet distance that you regain your clarity and strength. You might feel guilty for stepping away or wonder if you should try harder, but the truth is that forcing change in someone else is often futile. Real transformation comes from within, and if a person isn't ready, no external effort can push them forward. Karma, in this sense, becomes a teacher and a healer. It's the natural unfolding of consequences that each person must face for themselves. You don't have to be the enforcer of justice or the fixer of problems that don't belong to you. Sometimes letting go through silence is the most loving and powerful action you can take. It honors your limits and respects the freedom of others to find their own way, even if it means walking it alone. In these moments, the hardest lesson to learn is that change is a choice that cannot be forced. No matter how much you want to help, no matter how many times you offer your hand, you cannot carry someone's growth for them. And trying to push, plead, or argue often backfires, creating resentment, fatigue, and disappointment. The energy you spend trying to change someone who doesn't want to change is energy taken away from your own healing, your own progress, and your own peace. Choosing silence when others refuse to change is a form of self-respect. It's saying, I've done what I can, and now I need to step back. It doesn't mean you've given up on them completely. It means you've accepted that their journey is theirs alone. Sometimes the best thing you can do is detach emotionally, not in a cold or uncaring way, but in a way that protects your heart. There's a deep sense of frustration that comes when you've invested time, energy, and care into helping someone grow or improve, only to realize they are unwilling to change. You might have been patient, forgiving, and supportive, offering countless chances, explanations, and gentle reminders. You may have hoped that your example, your encouragement, or even your silence would inspire reflection and transformation. But sometimes, no matter what you do, the other person stays stuck. They repeat the same harmful patterns, make the same mistakes, and continue to hurt themselves or others without taking responsibility. It's heartbreaking to watch someone you care about refuse to meet you halfway or to acknowledge their role in the harm caused. It says, I don't need to be understood by you to understand myself. It says, I won't trade my mental clarity just to prove something to someone who isn't ready to receive it. People often assume that silence is submission, that if you don't argue back, you must not have anything worth saying. But real strength is in knowing when to speak and when to let silence speak for you. Sometimes the most powerful response you can offer is no response at all, not because you're defeated, but because you've outgrown the need to win battles that no longer matter. In that space of silence, you choose peace. You choose stillness over struggle. And while the world keeps spinning with noise, conflict, and ego-driven debates, you stand quietly confident in your truth, unshaken by doubt, and completely at peace with letting karma do the talking for you. And that's when you have to make a choice. Do you spend your energy trying to force someone to see what they refuse to acknowledge, or do you preserve your peace and walk away? Because being right means very little if it costs you your inner calm. You can win the argument and still lose your focus. You can prove your point and still end up emotionally drained. The truth doesn't need to be shouted to be real. And your worth isn't determined by someone else's willingness to agree with you. When you realize that your peace is more valuable than being right, you begin to approach conflict differently. You stop trying to convince everyone. You stop chasing validation from people who've already made up their minds. You stop needing to have the last word. Not because you're weak, not because you're unsure, but because you know who you are. You know what you saw, what you felt, and what you meant. And that's enough. Your silence in that moment becomes a declaration of maturity. There are moments in life when you find yourself in conversations or arguments where you know you're right. You know the facts. You know what happened. You have the logic, the clarity, and the truth on your side. And still, you're being questioned, challenged, or dismissed by someone who refuses to see it. In those moments, the temptation to prove yourself can be overwhelming. You want to lay it all out, every detail, every angle, so that the other person finally admits you were right all along. But what you start to realize over time is that not everyone is interested in the truth. Some people are more invested in winning than understanding. Some are driven by ego, pride, or the need to feel superior, even if it means ignoring reality. And the longer you engage with that pattern, the more it chips away at your self-respect. You begin to teach them that their apologies are enough, that consequences don't matter, and that your boundaries can be pushed with no real pushback. So sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step back, not with drama, not with bitterness, but with silence. A silence that honors your worth. A silence that creates space between you and their repeated excuses, because eventually silence becomes louder than confrontation. It forces people to confront their own behavior without the distraction of your emotional reaction. It removes the comfort of your forgiveness and replaces it with the quiet weight of accountability. People can say anything, but what they do consistently reveals their truth. You don't have to announce your disappointment. That's when silence becomes your greatest clarity, because arguing with someone who thinks words are enough is like yelling into the wind. They might nod, they might say the right things, but without effort, without growth, their words are hollow. It's tempting to keep pointing it out, to keep explaining how their actions hurt you, hoping they'll finally get it. But the truth is, people who truly care about the damage they've done don't just say sorry, they make it right. They show it. They evolve. And if someone isn't willing to put in that effort, your silence says everything that your words no longer need to. It's not about cutting people off at the first mistake. It's about recognizing patterns. If someone continues to hurt you in the same way, apologize, and then repeat the cycle. That's not a mistake anymore, that's a choice. There's a moment of confusion that many people experience in relationships, friendships, or even within family dynamics when someone wrongs you, hurts you, crosses a line, and then offers an apology, but nothing else changes. At first, the apology may sound sincere. It might come with all the right words, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, or it won't happen again. And because we're human and we crave peace, we often accept that apology, hoping it signals a turning point, hoping it means they now understand the pain they caused. But over time, if their actions remain the same, if the hurtful behavior repeats itself, you begin to realize that their apology wasn't a commitment to change, it was a tool to reset the dynamic, to silence the tension, just long enough to continue doing the very thing they said they'd stop. They may try to guilt you back into old roles or shame you for not being who you once were. But silence in these moments is your strength. It says, without confrontation, I don't need to prove anything to you. It says, I'm not going backward to make you feel better about my forward movement. You don't owe anyone a breakdown of your healing. You don't need to fight for the right to grow. Growth is personal. It's often quiet. It doesn't always come with applause, and it's rarely understood by everyone. The people who are meant to walk with you will grow with you, or at the very least, respect your journey. But those who try to keep you in a version of yourself you've outgrown, those who only knew how to relate to you through your pain, chaos, or self-doubt, they may fall away. And that's okay. In moments like this, when others cling to who used to be, when they speak from outdated perspectives or judge you through the lens of your past, silence is a gift to yourself. You don't have to defend your progress. You don't have to explain every boundary you've set, every mindset you've outgrown, or every toxic habit you've left behind. Some people are more comfortable with the older version of you, the one that was more agreeable, more passive, more available, meet their needs, even at your own expense. But when you start choosing yourself, when you begin to value your peace more than their comfort, it disrupts the dynamic they were used to. And they may not respond well. They may say you've changed with a tone of disappointment, not realizing that change is the goal. There comes a point in your life when you begin to grow internally, emotionally, even spiritually in ways that others might not understand or accept. You start to evolve, to change the way you think, the way you respond, the way you protect your peace. And not everyone will celebrate that. Some people, especially those who knew a past version of you, will struggle to accept the new version standing in front of them. They may question your decisions, criticize your silence, or accuse you of acting different. And you know what? You are different. You're supposed to be. That's what growth does. But it's not your job to constantly explain your evolution to those who are committed to misunderstanding it. The most grounded people are not those who insert themselves into every fire. They're the ones who recognize when to step back and let things unfold naturally. Staying silent doesn't mean you're indifferent or that you don't care. It means you're choosing your well-being over unnecessary involvement. It's the quiet strength of knowing your role, protecting your space, and letting others learn the lessons they need to learn on their own terms. In a world that constantly urges you to speak, comment, and involve yourself in everything, sometimes the bravest and most powerful choice you can make is to say nothing at all and walk away with your peace intact. Not every argument needs your input. Not every situation benefits from your presence. It takes strength to recognize when your involvement will only add noise instead of bringing clarity. It takes maturity to step back and say, this isn't mine to fix. Because sometimes trying to mediate or defend or explain only makes things worse. You become a target. You get blamed. You end up stuck in a problem that grows more complicated the longer you try to solve it. Silence in these moments is a boundary. It's a way of preserving your own peace and protecting your emotional energy. It's a signal that you refuse to be a pawn in someone else's conflict. And it's a reminder that people must sometimes face the consequences of their own actions without your interference. Just because you can help doesn't always mean you should. And just because someone wants to involve you doesn't mean it's your responsibility to carry their burdens. Sometimes you find yourself standing in the middle of chaos that has absolutely nothing to do with you. People pull you into conflicts, arguments, or gossip simply because you're nearby, because you're a good listener, a loyal friend, or someone who tends to keep the peace. It can be tempting to get involved, especially when you care about the people on either side. You might feel pressure to defend someone, clarify a misunderstanding, or act as the voice of reason. But the truth is, getting pulled into someone else's drama often costs you more than it helps them. You become emotionally invested in a situation you didn't create, and suddenly you're carrying stress, tension, and responsibility that was never yours to begin with. When drama doesn't directly involve you, silence is often the wisest response. Not every story needs your opinion. Choosing not to retaliate doesn't mean you're okay with what happened. It means you're choosing peace over prolonged chaos. You're choosing your growth over their punishment. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Let them carry the weight of what they did. Let the universe decide when and how balance is restored. You don't need to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner. You just need to walk away with dignity, with grace, and with the quiet confidence that what they sow, they will one day reap. That's the silent strength of trusting karma and yourself. Revenge is tempting, but it's rarely worth it. What it gives you in momentary satisfaction, it steals back in long-term peace. You can't move forward while constantly looking over your shoulder, plotting your response. And even if you succeed hurting someone back, you're left with a hollow victory because it doesn't undo what they did. It doesn't erase the memory. It doesn't restore your trust or return the time you lost. In fact, it often leaves you feeling more bitter, more disappointed in yourself, and further away from the person you truly want to be. Silence in these moments is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the conscious choice to rise above the cycle of pain. It's understanding that karma does not need your help to function. Life has a way of returning energy to its source. Those who deceive, disrespect, or hurt others are planting seeds that will eventually grow into consequences, maybe not in your sight, maybe not in your sight, maybe not in your timeline, but it happens. There's something deeply human about the desire for revenge. When someone wrongs you, betrays you, humiliates you, or causes you pain, it feels natural to want to make them feel what you felt, to teach them a lesson, to settle the score, to balance the emotional debt they created. We convince ourselves that getting even will bring peace, that making them hurt in return will somehow undo our own suffering. But revenge is an illusion. It tricks you into believing it's justice when in truth, it often becomes a second wound you give yourself. Because by focusing your energy on retaliation, you're still tied to the person who hurt you. You're still giving them space in your mind, your emotions, your life. And the more time you spend thinking about how to get back at someone, the more you delay your own healing. When you stop giving someone the reaction they're fishing for, their tactics become more obvious. Their pattern becomes clearer, and over time, their control over you weakens. Staying silent in the face of emotional manipulation is not a sign of apathy, it's a sign of deep self-respect. It says, I won't be controlled, I won't be baited, and I won't lower myself to play a part in a narrative that was never mine to begin with. Some people only understand boundaries when they feel the distance your silence creates. And in that space, karma does its work quietly, slowly, but surely. When someone is trying to manipulate you emotionally, silence becomes your shield. It's a conscious choice to protect your mental clarity. Because when you argue with someone who has no real interest in understanding you, you're not having a conversation, you're walking into a trap. They're not listening to learn. They're listening to find new ways to provoke you, to play the victim, or to flip the narrative. It's a game of control, and they win every time you respond in frustration, try to justify your feelings, or start doubting your own instincts. By choosing silence, you're refusing to participate in the game. You're not giving in to the guilt. You're not reacting to the bait. You're allowing space for clarity to return, for the fog of confusion they created to lift. It's not about shutting down emotionally, it's about stepping back so you can see things for what they truly are. Because silence doesn't just protect you, it reveals others. Emotional manipulation is one of the most subtle and damaging forms of control. It doesn't always come through shouting or obvious aggression. Often it appears quietly in the form of guilt-tripping, passive-aggressive remarks, backhanded compliments, or dramatic ultimatums designed to make you question yourself. These tactics are used by people who don't want open, honest communication. They don't want resolution, they want power. And they gain that power when they successfully pull you into emotional reactions that serve their agenda. The more you explain yourself to someone who's already decided to twist your words, the more control you give them. The more you try to win the approval of someone who's using emotional manipulation, the more exhausted and confused you become. Their actions, their character, and the consistency of their behavior over time speak louder than any rumor ever could. The people who truly know you, who genuinely value you, will not be easily swayed by gossip. And those who choose to believe lies without asking for your side, they were never really on your side to begin with. When you stay silent while lies are being told about you, you're not giving in, you're stepping back and allowing life to expose the truth in its own time. Because people who make a habit of lying about others, who twist facts to suit their own agendas, eventually reveal themselves. They slip up. Their stories change. Their bitterness becomes obvious. And while they exhaust themselves trying to paint a false picture of who you are, you continue to live your life with peace, with authenticity, and with grace. Silence, in this case, isn't surrender, it's strategy. It's knowing that dignity doesn't beg to be understood by everyone. Few things cut deeper than hearing that lies are being spread about you, especially when those lies come from people you once trusted or when they reach ears that matter to you. The natural urge is to defend yourself, to confront the person spreading the falsehoods, to clear your name and shout the truth as loudly as the lies are being whispered. But the truth is, the louder you try to defend yourself, the more it can seem like you're hiding something. Sometimes, the more noise you make, the more people start to doubt your side, wondering why you're trying so hard to convince them. It's an unfair game, and lies have a way of moving quickly, far faster than the truth. But here's something that time and experience teach us: truth always finds its way. It may take time, it may come quietly, but it always arrives. People who live with honesty and integrity don't need to chase down every rumor or correct every false narrative. Staying silent in those moments isn't weakness, it's mastery. It's choosing to rise above instead of stooping to their level. It's choosing to respond with calm, with dignity, and with the kind of self-control that many people never develop. Silence in these situations isn't about letting someone walk all over you. It's about refusing to let them drag you into their chaos. Because here's the thing, people who thrive on conflict, who need to provoke others to feel powerful, are usually thrown off by silence. When you don't react the way they expect, when you don't give them the emotional explosion they're fishing for, they lose their power over you. And while you remain quiet, life is still moving. Karma is still turning its wheels. The energy people put out, especially the toxic kind, tends to come back around. It may not be immediate, and it may not happen in a way that's visible to you, but it happens. One of the most difficult moments to stay silent is when someone is actively provoking you, trying to push your buttons, trying to get a reaction out of you. It could be through insults, passive-aggressive comments, or outright disrespect. And in those moments, everything inside of you may scream to respond, to defend yourself, to put that person in their place. But here's the truth: when you react in anger, you're not in control anymore. You're handing over your power to someone else. You're letting them dictate your mood, your behavior, and sometimes even your words. And often, what you say in anger doesn't reflect who you truly are. It reflects your hurt, your frustration, or your ego in that instant.